we have to start thinking about what's going to happen to the ministry, not what's going to happen to us. We know what's going to happen to us, and it's going to be glorious. But we want the ministry that the Lord entrusted to us to go on forever. And so this year, that's really what he's been speaking to us, is longevity. And how do we set up the ministry of Camp Hope so that kids forever can have that experience? And how do we reach the parents of those kids so that the experiences that you saw in the video aren't just memories? It's a continuation when they go home, when they're sitting at the dinner table, when they're having hopefully family nights. And then our biggest hope is that they would be in a church. So we are still the directors of Camp Hope. We are going nowhere, but the Lord is doing different things.
Yeah, so at the end of last season, we sat down and we really talked about, what the next year was going to be. And one of the biggest things that we wanted is we wanted to hear more from God. And that's not on God, that's on us, to really take the time to sit before him and listen. And so since camp ended last July, August, when we finished up and got things closed down, we've really been intentional in sitting before the Lord and just listening. And a lot of great things have come out of it. One of the things that we're refocusing on. So for the last 17 years, we've been doing camp. And it's the beginning campers, age 8 to 13, that come up. They get 6 days at camp spread over 2 weeks. They hear the gospel. They hear God's voice, and their lives are changed. I can confidently say that every kid that has ever come to camp has heard the voice of God. And the majority of them have, in their 8 to 13-year-old life, have given their lives to the Lord. We baptized pretty much all of them. And you see that excitement at camp, and you see that hope that builds in their hearts that God gives them. But then they have to go home. And like it talked about in the video, home lives are not always easy. Parents struggle, families struggle, communities struggle. And so it's coming off the mountain back into a dark place is very tough for a lot of these kids. And so we have alumni camps where we invite those kids that have come to camp, we invite them to come back. And for a lot of them, it's the only place that they hear God is at camp. And that's 3 days in the summer. And so one of the things that God has really been speaking to us about and really impressing in our hearts is to be more intentional with really connecting with the local church. So back when we first started, we were going into individual neighborhoods and we were meeting the kids on the street and in the parks and playing in their front yards, and then talking to their parents and saying, hey, we've got a free kids camp. Do you want to send your kids to camp? And they couldn't kick them out fast enough, not even knowing who we were or what we were about. And that was all God, setting that up. Over the last probably 7-8 years, camp has kind of blown up to, we fill up before we even announce the dates. And so now we're seeing kids from all over the valley coming to camp. And so we're picking kids up at a local central park, so nobody has to go from Fruita all the way to Clifton. But what God has really been impressing on us is we need to get back to those local neighborhoods, bringing all the kids that live together, grow up together, go to school together, and then connecting with their local church. Because we've got people now that are driving to Clifton on Sundays, picking kids up and driving them all the way back to Fruita, which is fantastic. But it's really getting the local church in their neighborhood, in their community, involved to the point where their congregation is coming up to help serve at camp, so those kids are developing relationships with them. So after the celebration picnic on Sunday or on Saturday, they can say, hey, let's go to church tomorrow. And every single one of those kids will say yes, because they don't want it to end. This is something that they've never experienced before. Finding that hope, finding that there's actually something better than what they're living through, that is what they want. And so that has really been our heart, is to start meeting with local churches, start meeting their pastors, start meeting their youth directors, start meeting congregants who have a heart for kids and families, and starting that discipleship, starting that training. Because it's not as simple as just showing up to church, because none of these families go to church. They have no idea that the door is unlocked. They have no idea that they don't need an invite. And so it's kind of retraining our minds to go out into the community and start building those relationships, so that when the invitation is made, that people respond, and they do respond. And so that's kind of where we are right now. We've got 2027 we're already working on with 3 different churches in Fruita, to start working with them, so that this summer when they come up, they can kind of stand back a little bit and kind of see how things work through our alumni camps, and how we do things, how we communicate with these kids, how we love them, how one of the big things is when the kids come up to camp, they're never in trouble. We'll show them a better way, but their behavior is not the root of their problem. And when we're addressing negative behavior, that is taking away from what God really wants them to know about him, that he is an all-loving, compassionate God. And so as we're training our new staff and the new volunteers and the new people that are going to be coming up, it really is a really cool thing to see God working in our lives, in Christians' lives, because they're being shown kind of the outside of what happens outside the church. So that's what we're really excited about.
The logistics. So it's a lot different for Louie and I. Not for camp, not for the kids, not even really for the staff. A little bit for our leadership staff. We are training our leadership staff up to be present, at least somebody, at every camp. Our hope is to get into those local churches and train the church to minister to these families. Now, like Louis said, it's not as simple as, hey, come on to camp and love on these families. Love on these families. Love on these families. That's not what it is. You really have to, what is the word? Step in. You have to really lean into where they are. You have to accept them for who they are and their behaviors. So these families and their kiddos that have been to camp and they have a lot of fun, have never been to church, those kiddos come to church, there could be a ruckus. Okay, how are you going to handle that? And how are you going to handle the parents that aren't handling it? And that's what we're going to help the church with. We're going to help them gather their people to be staff. So we still have Camp Hope staff. We still have leadership. We'll still be going to churches and saying, come on up and be a kingdom buddy. And we're going to go to that local church and we're going to say, we're going to invite them to sponsor a camp so that every kiddo's family, whether it's their parents, their brother and sister, who they live with, and is their guardian, their grandparents, maybe it's their foster parents, so that they get invited as well. Okay, so the intentionality will be just as much on the kids, but more on the families, so that those families will go to church. Because the person that is picking up those kiddos in Clifton and taking them to Fruta, that happens a lot. But it's not sustainable. Because if she's ill, those kids aren't going to church, right? If her car breaks down, those kids aren't going to church. If those kids get in trouble at home, they're not going to church because the parents actually use church, the Lord's time, as discipline. And so we feel led by the Lord to connect more and better with those parents so that the parents can see this is not just about the kids. It is not about their behavior. It is about, well, what was the song? Jesus, I can come to you. What was it? I must tell Jesus. They can go tell Jesus. They can come tell Jesus. And better yet, I heard the Lord in that song, add to that verse and then listen to me. Don't just come. Don't just talk, but listen. And then in Paul's video, I kind of heard that again, right? Paul is on an adventure. Paul is seeking the Lord. Paul is stepping out. You can tell, I don't know, but he's trusting the Lord. And honestly, I believe that that's what all of us as Christians should be doing, especially today. Because if you see anything in the news, if you step into the grocery store, if you stop and get gas, if you go through a drive-through, the world is changing. People are different. It's a little bit scary. And we have to be listening to God. So for Louie and I, we can't keep doing things the same way because, number one, we can't. Because I will admit, there was a day when I used to jump over bus seats. And I'm going to admit something else. I can't do that anymore. But somebody can. Somebody out there has a love for this mission like we do. We're not going anywhere. We're in it for the long haul. In fact, we always say we're going to die in our rocking chairs and they can either bury us with the chair or not. We don't care. But we will die in our rocking chairs at camp. Okay, now whatever that looks like, I don't know. I don't know, but I will go to Jesus about it and we will go to him and listen and be as obedient as we can. And then all that to say, we're terrible at it. We are so bad at being the perfect Christian. We're terrible at it. Suck. See? I can't even keep my mouth clean in church. Okay? But the Lord is good. And dang it, for 17 years, he has been good and faithful. Over 1,700 kids have experienced him. And I think at one point we had figured out that about 80% of the kids, probably a little bit more, get baptized. But they don't just get baptized. They've made a commitment. They've made a decision. And what we can't stand, what makes it so hard to go into that next year, is that we remember those kids made a decision, but who's leading them? We try. In fact, I spent the other day an hour and a half on the phone with a young lady that had a baby with her boyfriend, and they had a fight, and he left with the baby, and then it's discipleship on the phone, the best I can. But what if that family would have went to their local church when she was 8 years, no, she was 10, when she was 10 years old? What if at least today there would have been a vow, a commitment, a marriage? So we want to make sure that as we're training staff, which we do all the time, we're constantly training staff. If it's one-on-one, if it's when we get closer to the season, more organized, through the whole summer, we have a staff retreat. As we're training the staff, that we're not just focused on what's going to happen on those 6 days at camp or those 3 days at camp, but how can you enter into these people's lives so that they grow up spiritually, and so that they can lead their families and the kids can have a place to be.
So
that was not logistic. I'll get back to it. Go ahead.
So
there you go.
Our mission statement is we help kids realize that they're loved, valued, and created for purpose. And so through that, to fulfill that mission, it's not something that we just say to the kids. It's something that we actually model to them and show them. And this is kind of the 2.0 of now we're really, really focused on getting the church involved in providing opportunities. And so just like Paul said, he's on an adventure. That's something that we want to invite you guys into too. We've got staff up there from 16 years old up to, we've had kingdom buddies, we call them, not counselors, because we're not there to counsel them. We're there to be their friend and to love them where they are and let God do what God's going to do. And so I think the oldest we've had is in their 80s, and God set that up perfect because he wasn't able to run and climb trees and jump over rocks. So he just sat in his chair. And there were a lot of kids that came over because they knew he wasn't going anywhere. And they were able just to have conversations. And that's what most of these kids need, is just somebody to listen. And so we want to make that invitation to you guys and say, if God's been stirring in your heart, if you are looking for an adventure, because it is an adventure. Well, not for you guys, but we're 40 minutes out of Grand Junction. So we're a little bit farther from up here. But it doesn't cost you anything. You get all the food you'd ever want to eat. In fact, if you're on a diet, you won't be at the end of camp. Because that's another thing. Food is so important to these kids. A lot of them don't have food at home. And I know that's hard to believe, but we'll find kids sneaking into the kitchen, shoving as many bags of chips and snacks and everything, in their pockets. And we go in there and we just hand them a bag and just say, fill it up, because that's what they need. And so there's plenty of opportunities to share God's love up there. And we just want to, you guys have supported us, and we just want to continue to make that invitation that if God is speaking to you, if God is stirring in your heart, here's a place locally that you can come and serve and change a child and a family's life, and helping them to hear the voice of God. So
There's never enough time.
no. So any questions?
Yeah, that.
Yes.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
Do you have a spring volunteer work camp to get the camp ready?
Thank you for bringing that up. So because we only currently have 6 inches of snow at camp, normally we're at about 7 feet right now. We're going to be able to get in there super early. So I'm thinking probably first week of April that road will be cleared. And so we will be getting up there to kind of see what this light winter has brought. But I do know this, we've got decks to fix and stain this summer. We've got about 40 trees that we've got to get cut down, cut up, and stacked. We've got screens to build. So yes, we will be doing probably more work weekends this year because we will have the time. We'll basically have all of May and most of June to get that done. So we will definitely let you guys know.
You'll get all over the church here.
Yeah, we'll let Paul and Andy know and, get you guys the information. So, but yeah, there's always something to do. Windows to be washed, floors to clean. We got to get all the bunk beds disinfected and, clean for the campers. And the camp was built in 48. So a lot of the 3 of the buildings actually came from up here when they were building the monument. So 3 of those log structures actually made it off here all the way up to camp. So the camp is old, but we've, with God's provision, we've been able to update and upkeep a lot of things, but there's still a lot more. So you had another question?
Do you go into the churches down in town, in the neighborhoods? Do you have favorite churches that you really like, and you try to ask 1 or 2 people there that they can meet with the kids after camp, and then try to get those kids to their church, somebody that's in that church already?
So we don't have favorite churches, but we do seek out the churches in maybe like the harder neighborhoods. I don't know how to put that. The lower income neighborhoods in Clifton. When we first started, we went to, what was the name of that park? It's right by, if you've ever heard of 8 Ball Alley, I think is what they used to call it. Okay, so that area, what's that church? I mean, that park. No, I want to say Kimwood. Is it Kimwood? Okay, Kimwood. Okay. So we look for a church that's close to the neighborhood. Now, we want to know that, they're a Bible believing church, but we have to trust the Lord in that, we couldn't go in and, ask them, I don't know. Anyways, we trust the Lord for the churches that he sends us to in their area. You asked about like connecting parishioners with kiddos. That is what we want to do, but we want them to come to camp so that they can meet them there. They're going to walk with those kiddos as those kiddos come to know the Lord. So they're going to start their walk with Jesus with the kiddos and hopefully the families too. So yes, that is exactly what we want, is those kiddos to connect with mentors in the church. And we want the families to have that same opportunity.
So this is another ask, I guess. If you guys know of churches or of people that are going to those churches, and it doesn't matter where the kids come from. Every kid has a hurt that only God can heal. And it doesn't matter where you live in the valley, whether it's the Redlands or it's Clifton or Riverside or wherever. There are so many people out there that don't know who God is, that don't have that relationship. So we don't discriminate against anybody. I mean, if they show up on the morning to ride the bus to camp, they're coming to camp. We don't turn anybody away. So that would be another, is if you guys know people that, you maybe had conversations with that they're like, I just don't know what God's telling me to do, turn them our way, because we would love to talk to them to get connected. It's a lot more difficult to connect with churches as a ministry than you think. And so it really takes relationships of people that know people to help, kind of get through, because everybody wants something from the church. And so, for ministries to come in, we're not competition. We are a frontline paraministry for the church. And that's really what we want to introduce ourselves as. Use us. It's not going to cost you anything. God has told us what we need to be doing, and now we need to be plugging these kids in. So, any other questions?
The QR code that's up there, do we do that for you?
That is Louis and I personally. We are missionaries with Camp Hope. Now, we're also the founders and the directors, but we decided to join in faith, I don't know, 6 years ago?
2020.
So 6 years ago. And that's how we raise our personal support, because we don't want, right? The ministry it doesn't have the funds. It doesn't have the funds to pay anybody, but it's a couple of 3-4 full-time jobs, to be honest. I could go through the list, but just trust me, it's a lot. We love it. We love it. But we also know that it is not sustainable the way it is right now.
Right. The reason that we went with In Faith, first of all, we felt God call us to it, but God always provides. We will never be a burden on camp.
Yeah.
Camp was given to us for free. God threw us the keys and has provided everything up there. I don't know if any of you have been following our bus debacle. So we bought a bus and it broke down. Prayer. Diesel mechanic came out yesterday, hooked up his computer, and he said, oh, yeah, it's just a sensor went out. Yeah. So instead of a brand new engine, which we've been told we needed, it's just a couple $100 part. And he goes, and don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. So, and we're painting the bus blue
because it's the big blue bus. So anyway, if you noticed, we all wear the blue t-shirts. Blue has kind of become our color. When we first purchased the bus, we kidded with the kids when we were picking them up. We'd say, okay, go get on the big blue bus. And they'd go, but it's yellow. We'd say, but one day. And so anyways.
So yeah, because another guy that came out with Flint yesterday, look at the bus. He goes, oh yeah, we can paint this blue. We could put a whale up there. And so they're going to take care of that too. So yeah, God provides.
So yes, that is us personally. And then we also have a website. I wouldn't even know where to start to get it up there, but
camphopekids.org.
Yeah. And that's
I think we do. I've brought some more cards too that I'll put on the back there.
Yeah. And that's a place that you could give to the ministry, not just us, but either way, it's the ministry. So anyways, not going anywhere, trying to hear from the Lord, getting wiser. We think we're hopeful. We trust. That was another song, right? What was the trust song? Yeah. We're just trusting him. But it's good. We are so excited about what God is doing. He is bringing people. He's connecting us. We have 2 great ministries that we've connected with for discipleship for the kids outside of the Sunday church that we want to connect them to with their family. So one is for the younger kids. You've probably heard of the Good News Club. It's in most elementary schools. We're going to encourage our younger kiddos to go there and staff, because it's relationships. Like, look at you guys. Like Andy was like, hello, it's church time. No, you're all like, not yelling at each other. I mean that like fellowshipping, right? I just lost my train of thought. Why was I saying
And
that?
that's what we want for
yeah.
our place for our staff to plug in after camp.
Yeah.
Through the school year. And then the other is a newer group that has started for high schoolers called 720 Underground. And Josh McCarty, pastor of River City Church, who's just combined with the Baptist Church on 7th and Grand. Those two churches have merged, and Joy Church is also renting space there. So this is a place really for our high school kids who are really, really struggling. So it's a place, a safe place for them to come on. Right now, I think it's Saturday nights. And that's another place that we've already got 2 staff members that are serving with them, meeting with the kids and really pouring deeply into them. So God is doing all sorts of things. He's making connections. He's making, avenues for this ministry to, grow and expand in the valley. So.
This might be a long answer, I don't know. But for the older kids who have taken on whatever identity the world has told them to take on, they're not as malleable anymore as the little kids. And you're saying you meet them where they are, you love them. How do you take a kid who has been ingrained in a way of thinking for now many, many years and take them where they are, but then try and get them to where God wants them to be?
Oh, I want the answer. No, go ahead.
Because that'll be a really long
this is
answer.
My favorite stuff right here. Hey.
I'm just kidding.
It's fine. Take your time. I need to know.
How we address those types of things that we're facing in today's world, gender identity, just all those different issues that the kids are growing up with, we really see God's hand at camp, because up there, it's a new game. So there's a new set of rules. And the fact that these kids aren't getting yelled at, that nobody's telling them what they can and can't do. You see them on day 1 and day 2, they're pushing their world identity. They're trying to include all the other kids to join them. But what they really see is nobody's judging them. Nobody is affirming their identity. Nobody is attacking their identity. They're just loving them. We just love the kids for who God made them to be. And you see them change. Their worldly identity goes away. Their cat ears or their whatever they're wearing gets left up at the bunkhouse, because they just feel this comfort that they don't need to continue with something they really know in their heart isn't true. And they just let the staff and God love them where they are. Now, they got to go home. They have to survive in the world. And we realize that. So that's the tough thing, is when they leave camp, a lot of them lay on the floor and cry. And they say, please don't send me home. Don't make me go home. And so that's what's so important about continuing this after they leave the mountain, plugging them in, having those relationships continuing, so that not just church, but their Monday through Saturday, that they've got a place to go, a person to call, somebody to talk to, because that's really what they want. And so our stance with who these kids think they are is we don't even address that. I mean, unless it becomes super distracting, or they're really acting out.
But it doesn't.
But it doesn't, because God has just orchestrated how things happen up there. Is they are so busy with this new adventure, this new excitement, this peace that they feel, and this hope that they see, that they really kind of step away from who they are and let God do his thing. It's pretty amazing.
Can I talk to them?
Yes.
Okay. This is my favorite thing, you guys, right here. These kiddos come up and they think they come up, their sign up sheet says female, and they come up and they tell us they want to be a boy. We don't address it because it's only a smokescreen. When they say, I'm a cat, all they're saying is help me. Every time they say they belong to the LGBTQ community, they could care less. They're crying out for help. Every person you see on the street that you wonder which gender are they, they're not. It's not a matter of making a statement in, look how cool I am. I got it all together. They are crying out for help. They need Jesus. So like Louis said, we do not address it, except for, like Andy asked, staff set last year, our very first, what is it called? At the end of the day, we get together and we talk about it.
Debrief.
Our debrief. Every debrief. Okay, so every night after camp, we have a debrief. And what do? The girls want to hold hands. Nothing. Be a kingdom buddy. Okay, stand between them. Don't let them hold hands, but don't yell at them. Don't tell them not to do it. Don't address the fact that they're telling you they have a crush on somebody. Talk about somebody else. You guys, this smack in the head that I should have had a V8 is so for me. We know the holy God. Why are we giving that stuff any kind of attention? Why, right? Like, point them to Jesus. Now, it can be difficult when they're, I want to kiss her, or, we get this with the girls. Can we scooch our beds together? No, you can't scooch your beds together, right? Like, but we wouldn't let a girl and a boy scoot their beds together. We wouldn't let a girl and boy hold hands. So we just don't address it. But it is harder with the staff. That is harder for us Christians than it is for the actual kiddo or the person that is crying out for help. So we don't address it. We love them where they are and trust God, our holy God. We trust him when we're having difficult conversations. We trust him when we don't feel like we're making a difference.
And here's how we can do that. And there's something we did. We try to run a 1-to-1 ratio of kingdom buddies to campers. So if we have 20 kids up there, we've got 20 kingdom buddies. So there's really no excuse for not being able to love on these kids like they want. You've got one adult walking with every kid. And so that is really how we address things, is we don't give them that opportunity. And when we see that happening, that means something that has not gone according to what God wants. If you see a group of kids hanging out together with no kingdom buddies by them, that's when we step in as the directors and say, no.
The problem's us.
Yeah.
It's not the kids.
It's not the kids.
Right? The problem is us. So,
yeah.
Okay. So I want to give you one example though. And I know that the kids just got back, and I know that we're out of time here. The young lady that I told you about that I had the phone call with, okay? They live with her parents. They have a son. He's over a year now. The dad just got a job. They are not married. She's been coming to camp since she was 10. Hard life. there was an adoption and, just all the things, not the full truth, just all the things. So on the phone, she called me. And so we had a long conversation and I prayed with her. And then I said, call whenever. Call when you don't think that you can control your tongue, call, and I will pray with you before you have the conversation, the face-to-face. So I didn't hear from her. I checked back with her like within a day and a half. And she asked if we could get on the phone again. Sure. And she told me that they had reconciled. That's fantastic. So now I don't want to say, okay, that's great. God is good. Bye. So I encouraged her to take the next step. Okay, they both say they know God. We know she does because we've been doing camp with her. So I encouraged them to meet with somebody for their relationship and for their discipleship. She didn't love it, but she listened. Well, then I said, and if you don't find somebody right away, call me if you need to talk. She called me back. Things aren't going as great as she thought, right? I prayed with her again and just encouraged her. And I could tell, she's like, yeah, that's not what I want to hear. I don't want to hear this God thing. I don't want to hear about the Bible. I don't want to hear I have to go to church. But I know that that's what she needs. So instead of telling her everything she's doing wrong, because I never did. I never pointed out the fact that they got pregnant when they were in high school or that they're not married. I didn't point out what I shared with you. But what I did point out was when I went to her baby shower, I sat across a picnic table from her. And she can be very rough. Like in school, she got in trouble a bit for being a bully. And she's a bigger girl. But as I was sitting across from her at her baby shower at that picnic table and I was watching her, and she had probably 25 people there, people that she loved. I mean, she had invited them all. And she felt safe with. She had a ton of gifts, like piled high. And she, about halfway through opening gifts, she grabbed a card and kind of under her breath, but I was sitting right there, so I heard her say it. She said, as she's opening her card, she said, I love to open the cards and read what people say. So I reminded her of that I saw that she did that she liked that. And again, that I saw it. And I explained to her how I saw her. I said, young lady, I used her name, young lady, it was the most beautiful thing. I still remember it. It was 2+ years ago, but it is a vision that is stuck in my head of how you appreciated people loving you, how you appreciated the relationship, how you appreciated that these people cared so much that they took time out of their day to come and meet with you. I said, you were lovely. It was a beautiful time. And I kept going and I kept going. I never let up. Like she pretty much had to like, I ended it with, darling, you were stunning that day. Not because of her appearance, but the tenderness that I saw. So you look for that tenderness in those people. If you can't find it, then compliment them on their shoelaces. I have never seen shoelaces like that before in my life. Because if you can't find a compliment, I bet nobody else could either. So whatever it takes to break through those very, very hard places, just take those opportunities and then take the next one and the next one. And then when it gets really scary, you take the next one and you trust God, trust Jesus. Too long, sorry.
All right, any other questions? Yes.
How do you handle, manage, share specific pieces of scripture in the camp and then follow up?
So for our Valley to Mountaintop camp, we go through the book of Jonah. So we start at the beginning because Jonah is actually a tragic story. And it's something that resonates so well with the kids. So the first 3 days that
Turn your
the
mic back on, so
Oh, sorry.
we're catching on the live stream. Thanks.
so the first 3 days that the kids come to camp, we are slow rolling God into their lives. And so they learn about a guy named Jonah and a God who created him. Because it's amazing how many kids come to camp that there's no concept of God. They've never seen a Bible before. Jesus is just a word that their parents yell at them. And that's the reality that the majority of kids are growing up with that come to camp. And so we slow roll the whole God thing through the story of Jonah for the first 3 days. And in all of our activities and everything, it's all Jonah focused. So we talk about God, we talk about who he is, and that's where the questions come up. And the Kingdom Buddies are very good to, start talking about that. And then on the overnight portion of their first camp, everybody gets a Bible. We do a whole thing on what is the Bible? Why did God write the Bible? Who's in the Bible? And they all go to bed that night, starting at Genesis 1:1. And they maybe make a chapter in before they end up falling asleep. But I'm up there in the bunkhouse at 11 o'clock, and every little flashlight is on, and they're all reading their Bibles. So they get this hunger for what they've been hearing about. And then we teach them about forgiveness, and that's a big part of Jonah's story. So it's kind of their introduction 101, what they get at camp. Now for our alumni camps, we go in deep because that's really more of a discipleship. They know camp, so we don't need to, there's no introduction. Those kids that come back every year, they want to. It's their choice. And so we go in hard and heavy. For the guys, it really is, it's David. It's, what's the one we did last year?
Oh my gosh, it was a year ago.
We're old.
I don't
For the
remember.
girls, though, it really is structured around identity. That's where we really see the girls suffering, is they have this worldview of who they're supposed to be. And so it's all scripture about a loving God who sees them and has created them to be who they are. So we're not smashing them in the head with it, because most of them have never heard it. And so
But with the Kingdom Buddies, so we have a 1-to-1 ratio for the most part. It doesn't always work out perfectly like that, but that's always our hope. And so you're going to have a kiddo that is struggling with something, and we will encourage that staff person, that Kingdom Buddy, to seek the scriptures with that kiddo for them. So we could pick one topic, we could stand up here and we could teach it, but it's going to touch 3 kids. And we do always talk about forgiveness, because that's that's a thing, and they need to know that they're forgiven. But as far as the kiddos really diving into the scriptures, we encourage the staff to do that with them. But all of our teachings are biblical. They come out of the Bible. It's not fluffy, but we focus on the relationship. We don't focus on telling them what's right and what's wrong based on what they're doing. We really try to encourage that relationship with them so that they can have their relationship with the Lord. But they love their Bibles. They bring them back. So, yeah. Thank you. Oh, can I ask for something though? So going forward, like, we can talk back there and we know it. Oh, we know it. We know the last 17 years. But going forward, it's going to take some courage, because it'd be really easy to stay there. It'd be so easy. We could just run during the day and go home and sleep. We could do it. And then we die and go to heaven. But that is not what the Lord is calling us to do. He is calling us to step out, train up, disciple, and let the ministry live on beyond us. And it's scary. And I'll admit, without crying, it's kind of sad, because I like jumping over the bus seats, and I like sitting with the kids. I like being that person at camp. I love them calling me Miss Carrie. I love it when I'm in the grocery store and they say, Miss Carrie. But it is not about me. And I got to get over it. So that is a prayer request for us, if that's okay. Take it. All right, we'll keep going.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah. That's wonderful to hear, and just remind us what's happening on the mountain, and now seeing your heart for bringing that back down to the homes and the churches in the valley. So yeah, we have historically supported both the camp and the Nelsons as a church, and we'll continue to do that. But if there's anything you feel led personally also to do, I know they would appreciate that. So for prayer time, definitely we want to lift up Carrie and Louie and their camp and just the ministry. And maybe we could do that as a congregation. If I could have someone lead the prayer, but I would just like us